You've returned. After all this time. What do you want of me? Oh, Skull! Huh? No. No. No! No! No. I will grant you no boons, no more wishes, no more mind control. Greetings, program. Soul Hanker and Fernail, your buddy here, back once again on Drunkards and Dragons with another kick-ass episode. How to play D&D like a grown-ass woman or man. No. Death. All it craves is death. Death itself. Welcome back to another fireside chat. It's been a little while, and I figured since the trend of sitting next to a screen with a fire on it seems to be spreading. So soothing! Today's video is much overdue. It's been talked about for, a year now it feels like. And yet I failed to congeal the concepts into something I could truly write in my journal with confidence and with a sense of I don't want to do things anemically, half-assedly. Just because it's a good idea does not mean you're done with the idea. We have now arrived at today. Welcome to
the death video. Death. Death. Death.
And more widely, total party wipes and what to do as a dungeon master in the realm of death. This is with no joke intended, this is the specter that hangs over all D&D play, right? I mean, the reason the game is exciting, the reason damage is the main thing we roll all the time is because death awaits the failed of us. Great sentence. Death awaits those who fail, those who roll terribly over and over, and the monsters are rolling high. You know why that's exciting? Because death waits on the other side. Just as the skull said, you dire creature. You don't want to die, but you want to see death. Up front, close, personal, one hit point. Everyone down but you. You manage to swing across the chain, avoiding the acid pit, healing your ally just before you're consumed by the acid. Then he comes up, heals you in return, and you're right at death's door, and these are stories that will be told for a long time to come. That is why death is a big part of the game. But there is a subtext here, which cannot be ignored. Death sucks. Death is balls, and I mean in a bad way. Bad balls. Bad balls, death. Death sucks. Especially if you have a character that you're right in the middle of its lifetime and you really like that character and death comes knocking, it can be a very unnerving and sad experience, right? And this vision of horror, this imagined scenario of the player who loves his character, her character, and runs into this deadly scenario and winds up dead, winds up losing their character, or worse, the entire group is killed. This vision, for some reason, gets in the mind of the dungeon master far too often than it should as some kind of gloom, doom, horrible scenario. And they find themselves, me included, just like you guys, plagued by this nightmare vision, plagued by the vision put into your head by this creature, this thing, the vision of death. So, what are you going to do? You are no longer going to run and hide from this terrifying vision of the future you imagine, where a character dies unexpectedly, a party wipes out and dies. You're no longer going to dread this time. You are the god of Dungeons and Dragons. You are the dungeon master. You are the creator and the destroyer. What is death to you but one more tool in your toolbox? Exposure therapy is basically to be saturated with the thing you fear most to such a point that you overcome the fear and see it for what it truly is. And in this case, what it truly is is the thing that makes the game exciting, and you need to use it as a tool. So you better put on your man pants and wade in, because we're about to talk about death. You can't have heroism without peril, and that is what we are going to talk about today. Now first, we have the first section, the first D6. 6 things to be prepared for death in your game. Be prepared. This means it's not happening yet. It may happen in the future. And if you have a cool campaign, it will happen in the future, especially at low level. Just hit them, get them used to it. How do you be prepared to have death in your campaign? First, you need to set your tone. Wow, I guess that sets the intellectual tone of this channel. You got to set the tone. Now, I often talk about being 100% transparent with your players, right? And this is critical. This means having the tribunal, right? Gathering outside the table to talk about the game in a frank fashion. This means summarizing previous sessions at the beginning of a table session and bringing the focus in and reminding everyone exactly what the tone of this game is. And we're playing this way that we all talked about and agreed upon. And here it is out in the open. By the way, I nerfed the goblins. And we're going to switch this rule over here and that thing. Okay, those repairs are done. Let's jump into this session, right? Total transparency. Nobody thinks you're good at anything, so you have nothing to lose. Well, I speak for myself. There's no embarrassment in transparency. It is the very treasure of friendship and fellowship. It's honesty and transparency. So that's what you're going to do. And that's how you're going to set the tone. And what I mean about that is, like, in your campaign, you're going to talk openly. Not in-game, not in character, about the role of death in this campaign. If your party is not into it, let them speak up. Have this discussion at the beginning. I don't want them dying all the time, somebody might say. Oh, interesting, okay. But if you, as the DM, if you have an open tableau, the players are ready to do whatever you want to do. You're going maybe up front, and this is a classic Tomb of Horrors move, is you say, you guys probably have 3 to 5 characters in mind, because this is going to be deadly and I'm not going to pull any punches. The book is going to kill you, not me. Leads me to my second point about being prepared for death in your game, which is, attention dungeon masters everywhere, and you be quiet on this one. Absolve thyself of responsibility. Absolve thyself. Too many times do I see dungeon masters totally internalizing some kind of blame that their game balance, whatever that is, was fucked up in a way that got the players killed. That did not happen. If the game balance is fucked up, it's up to the players to hide behind the rock. I'll tell you what happens, they never hide behind rocks. I've been thinking for years that this will change. It never changes. Players make poor decisions in brutally deadly endgame scenarios. They always think, well, I can just go up and kill him and end it. They never just think, I'm going to drag him behind the rock and heal him. Almost never. Absolve thyself of the responsibility for death. I'm going to say this, and it may be controversial. It is absolutely 100% of the time, every time, the responsibility of the players that they die or party wipe. Every single time. Just chew on that for a moment. Absolve thyself of this responsibility that somehow your monster had too many hit points. That's why everyone wiped. Are you kidding? Get out of here. The players are always so damn bold and have such hubris that they think they can do this, and they think if they can just do that, they'll be the hero of the day. When you see a player actually hide behind something, celebrate that moment. That's a true hero. That is click 2. Click 3 is if you see it coming and you're worried about death. Remember, you're preparing here on this D6. Sometimes you do have to nerf things as a dungeon master, right? Because it's just like the spikes are just insane. You know, like this piece of mechanic here is just, whoa, it's nuts. Do not nerf your mechanics. And definitely do not nerf your rolls. Dear Lord, that is the heresy of our game. Dungeon masters who are rolling things and get that shifty look and then say, I rolled an 11. Unacceptable. That is not the game. I don't know whoever said that's okay. It's not. I don't care what the story wants. If dice can't be trusted and out in the open, the game is a sham. Nerf your behavior. not your roles and not your mechanics. And what I mean by your behavior is not you as the DM, I mean your creatures. Your environment is probably going to be your most lethal thing because it's very hard to control its behavior, right? An earthquake, say. But goblins, they don't always have to attack. Every once in a while, they run for their lives, or they go for reinforcements, or they go to find a bigger weapon. Use behavior of your scene and of your creatures to nerf the deadliness. Not like making a 19 into a 12. That is lame. And if you have a mechanic that every N rounds something horrible happens, I'm sorry, that's how it has to happen. If you want to nerf it, you can nerf it by telling the players, you guys, you should seriously hide from this thing. Hachina, hachina. Point 4. Point 4 is, as I just mentioned, and this is a perfect segue, because that's what a baller I am. Good God. Good job, buddy. Great job. Good job. You want a chicharrone? Si. Sorry, that got a little strange there. Bring attention to the deadly. This is your job as you see death is coming, as you're preparing. Remember, that's what we're doing on this dice. We're preparing for death. Bring attention to the deadly elements on the board. Players get so interested in offense, they often just kind of lose sight of what's really killing them all. You guys know out there who are playing every week, players get so fixated on being lethal themselves, they just will often overlook the fundamental problem that's just killing everyone. Your job, if you want to help them, which is not always the case, but if you want to prepare, is to make sure they at least have the information to make smart choices. Draw their attention to things, and I'm talking every round. As it comes back around, draw their attention through, glorifying your own roles, by pointing at the board. If you don't use a board and you're in theater of the mind, then you're going to have to, do some of that crazy Tim Carney shit where he's like, double adverbing all his stuff. He's like, this is a deadly, deadly thing. This is a spiky, spiky wall, right? Somehow bring their attention to what's killing them so that they can make smart choices. 5 on the preparation D6 here. You've got to root for the heroes. It may seem simple, and it's a great sort of dungeon world precept or GM principle, is always be a fan of the heroes, root for the heroes. And I want to take it a bit further, which is not only root for the heroes, but be aghast at the enemies. So as you're rolling for the monsters, again, absolve yourself. You're not the monsters, you're the dungeon master. Be aghast at them. Oh God, they're doing so much damage. This is horrible. Ooh, he just rolled a 19. Whoa, I just spit all over my dungeon master. That must mean it's getting exciting. Being aghast at the foes and a big fan of your heroes, like, yes, there you got him, right? This makes, as if death is approaching, it at least prepares the tone. Remember, you don't want the players thinking, you just killed me, asshole DM, because it's not real and it's not true. And this is a little way to drive that home. Finally, 6 on a D6. That's what we call rolling max, baby. Know your lethality. This is the most difficult way to prepare for death in your campaign. Know how lethal things are. How does this exactly hit the road and get to the table? I can't tell you, but you have to know. As the dungeon master, you have to know how lethal something is. If you are surprised when 3 of them drop in the opening encounter, that can be deeply unnerving. That can make it feel like the game is a bit of a sham. Like, dude, what are you doing? Did you just make that breath weapon up like right before we came over, or like while you were eating your taco? Like, you need to know your lethality. You need to know that it has the potential to spike to X level, right? This is going to give you the ability to prepare. If you know that this encounter is deadly and this one is not, you can help to prepare. And by doing the 5 things that I just mentioned, drawing attention to deadly things, rooting on the heroes and being aghast at the foes, right? If you know what's deadly, if you know your lethality by heart, you'll be excellent at this. And it is a difficult skill to master, especially if you're sort of running on tables, right? If tables are building your content, you might not know what's coming up next, but you need to know your game, whatever it may be, for its potential lethality, because that's where the confidence of the game is going to turn, is to you for knowing the lethality. And that is our preparation dice. move on to the second element of understanding, preparing for, and mastering death in your campaign. And this is the death of a single character. In a lot of ways, the death of a single character can almost be worse than a party wipe. It can leave someone out. It can end a session, or even worse, not end a session on the strangest and most despair-laced note. It can give people a sense of what are we doing. It can sometimes kick people out of playing D&D. They decide they don't like that sensation and they bail. It's the opposite of dopamine in some cases. What you're going to do as the DM is first come to terms with this feeling you're going to have, which is, oh God, it's actually happening. And you know what I'm talking about. You see it coming. A single player death. Your job at this point is not to make sure it doesn't happen. That will ruin the backbone of the game. You're not there to make sure they live. Are you kidding? No, you're the dungeon master. You're everything and nothing. You are a world transparent, codified through rules. So you're not going to bend because something bad is going to happen. Bad things happening is why heroism matters. So when one character is coming up on a death, and you have this feeling, I have 6 tips for you. First of all, number 1 on the D6, be sure that the players, all of them, are aware what's happening. This may seem obvious, but I see too many game tables where there are 5 separate consciousnesses at the table, working through turns. And the DM isn't aggressively looking each person in the eye, energetically addressing the table and the game and saying, you guys, this is about to go down. You're working through rules and you're working through turns, you're working through, oops, you're dead. Don't let that happen. Openly announce and herald the coming of doom. Pretty easy one, right? Now I've rolled 2 on my single player death dice. Ooh, and this 2's been through hell. I think it's got blood on it. Make every single roll exciting as they approach this white hot nadir. If you see that a player is dying, your job to have energy as a dungeon master becomes twice as important. You need to make sure that the table is holding their freaking breath as this person either rolls their death saves or jumps over the pit or whatever the hell is happening where they're going toward their demise. Draw attention to these rolls and herald the results. So everyone knows what's happening, and it's up to you to be the most energetic, the most enthusiastic, and the weirdest person at the table who's the most excited about these roles. And don't fake it. Prepare your soul to be open to new excitement when you're dungeon mastering, especially when death is on the table. And don't fake it because you heard the tip. Open your heart to the situation. See what that other person is going through and hail those rolls. Now, when we roll a 3 on our single PC death dice, that's where we're looking at a little bit of a moment of gentleness, right? You're a dungeon master. You're both giver and taker. In this case, you're giver. I'm talking about D&D 5e in particular here, but folks, be generous with stabilize. Be generous with the stabilize rule. You don't need a healer or somebody with a first aid kit or whatever to stabilize a character. Remember, stabilizing is you're still at 0 HP, you're still unconscious, you still don't get to play or have fun, and you suck. But you are no longer dying because someone took their turn or a series of turns in a really exciting death to reach you, grab you, apply pressure to your wound, and look you in the eye and say, you're not going to die on me, not today. Let any character do that. It is worth the excitement, especially if the death is happening in a hard-to-reach place. And another character or series of characters has taken all this damage and forgone all their own action just to reach you and to touch you. Let them stabilize that character. Let them love each other. Don't be a dick. All right, rolling a 4 on the D6 of single character death. I'm kind of wishing I had a second beer now. You ever get that? On the next dice, maybe this asshole will give me another beer from space. Here we go into, oh God, it's happening, right? I've got a 4 on my single character death analysis dice. If a PC does go down, and I'm talking go down, I'm not talking unconscious, I'm talking dead. I'm talking every rule has been pulled out, everything, and that fool dead. If it happens, prepare yourself mentally with some good, smooth flow to end that session quickly. I don't care if you're an hour into it. End the session quickly. Even if your friends want to stay over and you guys have an intermission where a new character roll, or we'll get into all that other stuff. But don't just play for another 3 hours while some poor bastard sits in the corner and eats fruit roll-ups. Fruit roll-ups are delicious, but that's lame. Don't do that. Don't be that girl or guy. Pretty simple rule, right? But just get it in your head as a law of behavior. Because when the time comes, it's going to be hard to do. It's going to be hard to just say, this session is freaking over, guys. We're going to regroup and think about what just happened. But you're that adjudicator. You're blind justice. Meeting out the beginning and the end. Be that avatar. Own that power and be just with it. 5. On the single character death D6. This one is tough, but I'm going to ask it of you because you guys are creative oddballs who stand out from others in your ability to be dungeon masters. I mean, the fact you're even watching Drunkards and Dragons is a sign that you share fellowship with me. This is all I do. It's all I think about. Is it some kind of noble profession? Is it some kind of world-improving skill or art form? No, this is for fun. But it is the thing in my life I have just become totally fixated upon mastering. And I want you to join me in that fixation by mastering this next skill, because this is a tough one. Have options in mind. This player goes down, and I'm talking go down with a capital D. They dead. Have options in mind. In the 30 seconds or 90 seconds leading up to their death with a capital D, that is your time as a dungeon master to quickly formulate every fact you know about the campaign so far, the campaign in the future, the world at large, and to formulate a fantastic set of options, possibilities, or explanations that could make it better, give it some kind of other outcome, provide threads or hooks to new adventures that this death has led to, or do something fascinating. Yeah, I just asked that of you. I'm going to ask that this is one of your most important improvisational skills. If a death is coming, have options in mind. If that sucker drops, have options in mind. And that includes like what snack to pull out of the fridge. Like know your table, know your friends and your players, and be able to ride the momentum of that death. Not fall into a pit of uncertainty and unclarity and, oh, that kind of sucked. Don't let that happen. The word master is in Dungeon Master for a reason. All right, we're rolling a 6 now, rolling max, as we like to say. On the single character death, D6. This one's easy. And this one, a lot of people I think already do, because we know we want it. We all want it. If they're gonna die, and there's no avoiding it, and here it comes, you know what to do. Let them Braveheart that shit. I'm talking screaming freedom while you grab 2 oil bombs, jump off the cliff into the dragon, ride it into the clouds, and blow it to smithereens. You're going to have to weekend at Bernie's, that motherfucker. Yup. I just said it. I've seen it happen. The heroes of Lork did it. I don't need to tell you all the specifics of what can happen here, but if someone is dying or on the brink of death, let them wake up for an instant to cry freedom. Braveheart that shit. If they know they can live without this character too and they can make another one and it's going to be great, it's going to be fun for everybody, then let that character make such an end. A red day. A day of shattered shields that will be spoken of forever. Not, oh yeah, man, that was weird how that trap went off and then I just kind of vaporized. You know, it's not really what I saw coming after playing for 5 years in your group, but you know, I guess I'll roll a paladin now so I can self-heal. Don't be that guy or girl. That's our second D6. Oh, skull! I thirst, but I'll not beg you. Golden demon, grant me this boon. Ah. Well, I would think that a supernatural skull like you could have actually given me the beer already poured, but... What's that? Yes, I know you want me to talk about death. Good grief, where does the skull come in? Now comes a time of great pain. If only Jack Palance were here. TPK! Total party kill. It's a wipe, bitches. This one, everybody die. And not with a rope attached. No, no. Everybody dead. What do you do? Whew. In a way, I think this is actually easier to deal with, as I mentioned, than a single party death. Because if we go down, then we all go down together. And by golly, that's what you're going to make happen. How are you going to do it? Roll a 1 on my total party kill D6 explanation dice. This is tough. This is an element of the human spirit. This is you becoming more than you are. No matter where you are on life's path, you can always do this step better. Do not waver or equivocate or panic. In the face of a total wipeout, a total party kill, complete failure, which is not the same as a TPK, but in some cases it is. You are a dungeon master. You are a pillar of salt. You're an immovable object. You're the ocean that must be parted. You don't feel pain or panic or fear or dread. And when you speak with the God voice, the booming voice. You're the avatar. You don't equivocate. You don't act confused. And you sure as hell don't panic that it's happening. You were ready for this all along. Now inside your mind, you may be screaming in abject terror because your friends are going to hate you now. But not as the dungeon master. Outwardly, you are calm, collected, and completely ready for the total party kill to happen. No problem. I've been preparing for this for 25, 30 years. I'm used to this stuff. Don't worry, guys. It's not that big of a deal. This is a beautiful beacon to be for your friends and your fellows and your players. You must let them know that the game is absolute. It is a pillar of rock at the center of the universe, not some little, cloud of butterflies flying around them. It is an immovable colossus against which they'll break their bodies, not some negotiable truth. If you can maintain this straight poker face as the total party wipe happens, you'll find that the excitement and the fairness is going to go through the roof, and it's going to be the story of legend, not some kind of big failure that makes everybody poop their pants. Although there might be a little bit of poop in the pants. Got a 2 on here now. If the party wipe is approaching, give rolls gravity, just like we did before with a single character, right? Drawing attention to every roll, because you'll be running short on rolls. You'll see it in your mind. You'll be like, man, there's like maybe 5 dice rolls left in this entire game right now if things don't go well. Okay? If you feel that, give gravity to every single roll. And a last piece that I want to add on relative to the single character death is not only are you giving gravity to every roll, you're going to give gravity to those rolls in language that uses the rules of the game. Okay, man, you know that if you miss this death save, that's pretty much it. Okay, if this breath weapon takes everybody out, you're all going to drop. If you guys don't make this dex save, that's going to be, right? So you're putting rules into your gravity language that make sure everyone is crystal clear on the challenges they're facing and what they need out of the dice. You gotta get a 15 on this, everybody. If you don't heal for at least 2 right now, man, that's it, right? Constant reminder, not only of the gravity of the roll, but the rules involved. Keep it clear. Rolling a 3 on the total party wipe die. Summarize every turn. Now, normally when you're playing, there's not quite time for this, right? You don't want to be summarizing every turn because, dear Lord, that's going to be a lot of summarizing. But in the case of here comes the total party wipe, you owe it to the players. Every single turn, it completes. You wrap it up. Okay, wow, the wizard just came across there in the nick of time. He caught you by the chain there, but only one of you is still up. He has 1 hit point, and even though the wizard is right there, he gets the chain across and he drops. And now, man, only the rogue has a chance. What are you going to do? Okay, you normally don't give that much summary to a turn while you play. because there's just no time. It would take forever. But if you know there's like 3 or 4 turns left, like here comes the end, by golly, give it all you've got for description and summarization. Rolling a 4, it is a TPK, and it happens because it's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, you're not playing D&D. It's got to happen at some point. It doesn't have to happen every week, but it should happen every few months or every year at least. I mean, it's a fun part of the game. If it does happen, have your next scene ready in your head and go straight to it. And I'm talking no delay. Don't even give anyone a chance to exhale. This is another challenging Dungeon Master sort of skill. But what wants to happen when there's a TPK is everybody wants to lean back in their chair, check their phone, see what Justin Bieber's up to, maybe like look at some crispy doggo memes, whatever, and then like kind of, lament a little bit and drink some vodka and ask each other why they're drinking vodka. No! You want to cut right to the next scene. Now, as that next scene takes roots, then it's a good time for a break. But you don't want the break to happen when everybody's dead. There is just very difficult to pull up out of that pit. It's like Lady Gaga at the Super Bowl, right? It's like the show is so long. Am I even watching the Super Bowl anymore? I don't know. If halftime was 5 minutes long, man, the Super Bowl would just tear into oblivion with intensity. Rolling a 5. Oh. Okay, now, understanding the difference between a party wipe and a failure is very important. And here's where you're going to take that importance to the bank. Sometimes you can wipe and it's kind of like you'll be teleported back or this, that, or the other thing will happen. But if the wipe does happen in such a way that it is a failure of the quest, that the world will be annihilated because they failed, right? Because they died. I'm sorry, but once again, you are a dungeon master. You are everything and nothing. You are evil and good. You must narrate the horror of their failure. It has to happen, because if it doesn't, their failure will not feel awesome. The world was turned to dust as your skeletons melted into the stones and Tiamat rose up and unleashed her full fury. And those that remained in the husk of the world, basically a cold rock catapulting through space, those that clung to it for survival, ever did they curse your names, the heroes they trusted who failed them and created a realm of pure agony. Like, I'm talking, make their wipe matter. It has to. It has to, because of the next step. But before we get there, just practice this art form in your head, on paper, whatever. The failure of your campaign or of your adventure, of your battle, if it is a failure, is such a failure. Yeah, just use every little piece of their history, of their memories, of their character backgrounds, of their bonds and their traits. Their bonds are broken, their traits are betrayed. They're spoken of as nameless cowards for the rest of time. Oh! If you're going to make a goal, hit the back of the net, you know what I'm saying? Boom! Rolling a 6 on the total party wipe dice. Spawn a new party with the legend of their deaths. And I would recommend doing it on the spot right there before that session is done. What are you talking about, Hankering? What did you just say? If you have a real party wipe, and I mean like a juicy one, 50 years pass. And in the shadow of that terrible failure, those terrible deaths that were suffered by the once heroes, the wrongly prophesized, ooh, that stings. A new group of heroes rises 50 years later to retrace their steps, even discovering their corpses along the way, which is, yeah. To try again at the great quest which they failed at, but now with a new context and a new peril. Just like a character in DCC dies at first level and there's another one ready to jump in his place, I dare you to imagine a world where a group of 9th level D&D players are wiped out by Tiamat, and before the session's even over, there are new first level players in a group sworn to avenge the deaths of the dead. The game does not end. This is why you are absolved. Death and even failure are not the end of the game, and they sure as hell aren't the end of your fellowship as a gaming group, as friends. That's why, as the Dungeon Master, you blow their minds by seeing that cosmic level of time. They're players. They see a tiny level of time. They see their own life, their own mortality. You're the Dungeon Master. You see this massive span of time, forward and back. Whether you're improvising, you've written it down, whatever your method is, you see it. And so when these events happen, you are unfazed, and the legend continues. Do that thing. Make the wipe the anchor of the new adventure and do it right on the spot. If you need 30 seconds to chew on a nacho while you build the new campaign in your mind, or at least the first little moment of it, do it. What have you done? No, it's the symbol of the skull. Defiler. Those are the 3 6s of death.